Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going exploring how self-affirmation is viewed and cultivated in Japan.
Sounds fascinating.
It is. We've got some excerpts here from a Japanese guide for parents.
Yeah.
It's called Child's Self-Affirmation 2.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll be translating and unpacking the key ideas as we go.
Looking forward to it.
So the mission here is to understand the Japanese approach to self-affirmation. See what we can all learn from it.
Great.
So the guide starts off, with some pretty alarming statistics about Japanese youth.
Oh,
Yeah, it says less than 50% of young people in Japan report being satisfied with themselves.
wow. That's pretty low.
It is, and their mental well-being scores are significantly lower than other developed nations.
That's concerning.
Right, it's like they're facing this self-esteem crisis.
Yeah, those stats are definitely a red flag.
So why do you think that is? What's going on?
Well, it's a complex issue, of course. But the guide suggests that traditional cultural values might be playing a role.
How so?
Well, in Japanese culture, there's often a strong emphasis on, conformity, humility, not standing out from the group.
Right.
And while these values have their merits, they can sometimes make it harder for kids to develop a strong sense of, individual self-worth.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're always told to blend in, not to brag about yourself, it can be tough to feel good about your own unique qualities.
Exactly. So the guide is trying to address this issue by offering parents ways to boost their children's self-affirmation within this cultural context.
Okay, so how do they approach it? What's their strategy?
Well, it's multifaceted, but one of the key concepts is understanding a child's unique personality and tailoring your approach accordingly.
Interesting.
Yeah, they have this really interesting 4 colors personality test.
4 colors personality test.
Yeah, where a child's color preference reveals their self-affirmation style.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued. Tell me more about these color types.
Sure. So you have red, blue, yellow, and green.
Okay.
And each color represents a different way a child approaches self-affirmation and motivation.
So it's like a personality framework based on color preferences.
Right. And the idea is that by understanding your child's color type, you can tailor your parenting style to better support their self-esteem.
I see. So give me an example. How would you approach a red child differently from, say, a blue child?
Okay. So let's say you have a red child.
Okay.
They tend to be very driven, goal-oriented. They thrive on competition.
Got it.
So with a red child, you'd want to give them clear goals, praise their efforts, and frame setbacks as learning experiences.
Makes sense. Appealing to their competitive spirit.
Exactly. Now, a blue child, on the other hand, is more social. They value relationships and cooperation.
Okay.
So with them, you'd focus on encouraging teamwork, praising their kindness and empathy, and creating opportunities for them to connect with others.
So it's like speaking their language, but in a deeper sense. Not just using words they understand, but using approaches that resonate with their core motivations.
Precisely. And this leads to another key point in the guide.
Oh.
They emphasize shifting the focus from praise to recognition.
Okay. What's the difference? Aren't those kind of the same thing?
Well, not exactly. Praise often focuses on the outcome.
Right, like good job or you're so smart.
Exactly. But recognition focuses on the process and the effort the child put in.
Okay, I'm starting to see the distinction.
It's about noticing those small victories, those little moments of growth, and acknowledging them specifically.
So instead of saying you got an A on the test, you might say, wow, you really focused and worked hard on those math problems, and it shows.
Precisely. By highlighting their effort and strategies, you're helping them internalize the idea that their actions and choices matter.
It's about building that intrinsic motivation, that sense of agency, rather than just seeking external validation.
Exactly. You're teaching them to be their own cheerleader, to recognize their own progress and feel good about it regardless of the outcome.
That's powerful. And I bet that can make a huge difference in their self-esteem.
It really can. And speaking of cheerleading, the guide goes into some really specific language technique that parents can use to boost a child's self-belief.
Okay, this is where it gets really practical. Let's dive into those techniques and see how they work.
Sounds good. So the guide offers 7 types of phrases that can help encourage kids boost their self-confidence and motivation.
7. Okay, I'm ready. Lay 'em on me.
All right, so the first one is pretty straightforward. It's all about using positive framing.
Positive framing.
Yeah, so instead of focusing on what they shouldn't do, you emphasize what they should do.
Okay, so like instead of saying don't run in the house, you would say let's walk inside.
Exactly. It's a subtle shift, but it can make a big difference in how the child perceives the message.
Right, because you're not just telling them what not to do, you're giving them a positive alternative.
Right. and it helps create a more positive and encouraging atmosphere overall.
Makes sense. Okay, what's the next type of phrase?
The second one is all about asking for their opinions and
Oh,
thoughts.
that's a good one. Kids often feel like their opinions don't matter. So if you actively seek their input, it shows them that you value their perspective.
Precisely. And it helps them develop their own sense of agency.
Yeah.
They have a voice and their thoughts are worth hearing.
Right? It's about empowering them to think for themselves and to feel like they're part of the decision-making process.
Exactly. And this can lead to more cooperation and less resistance too.
I bet. Okay, so we've got positive framing and asking for their opinions. What's next?
The third type is encouraging reflection and self-evaluation.
Okay, so this is about helping them think about their actions and their choices.
Yeah, you can ask questions like, how do you think that went? Or
Yeah.
what could you do differently next time?
It's about helping them learn from their experiences, both the good and the bad.
Exactly. And it encourages them to take responsibility for their actions.
Right. Instead of just blaming others or making excuses, they're learning to think critically about their own behavior.
And to come up with solutions for improvement.
Okay, this is great stuff. I'm taking notes over here. What's the fourth type of phrase?
The fourth one is all about reassurance and support.
Okay, so this is where you come in as the cheerleader,
Yeah.
offering words of encouragement and letting them know that it's okay to make mistakes.
Exactly. You might say things like, I know this is tough, but I believe in you. Or, it's okay to mess up, everyone does. We learn from our mistakes.
It's about creating a safe space for them to be vulnerable, to take risks, and to know that you're there for them no matter what.
Right. It's about building that sense of trust and security.
Okay, so we've covered positive framing, asking for their opinions, encouraging reflection, and offering reassurance. What's next?
The fifth one is about expressing gratitude for their actions.
Gratitude.
Yeah. So even if they haven't achieved the desired outcome, you can still acknowledge their effort and thank them for trying.
Okay, so thank you for helping me clean up even though you didn't want to.
Exactly. It shows them that you appreciate their willingness to contribute and that their efforts are valued.
And that can be really motivating, especially for kids who are struggling with self-doubt.
Right. It reinforces the idea that their actions have a positive impact.
Okay, two more to go. What's the sixth type of phrase?
This one is about emphasizing the importance of their effort, not just the results.
Okay, so it's kind of like what we talked about earlier with recognition versus praise.
Exactly. You want to focus on the process, the hard work, the dedication, even if they haven't reached their goal yet.
So instead of saying, you're so good at drawing, you might say, I can see how much effort you're putting into your artwork, and it's really paying off.
Precisely. It's about helping them see that the journey is just as important as the destination.
That their growth and development are what really matters.
Right. And finally, the seventh type of phrase is about focusing on their positive qualities.
Oh, I like this one. It's about highlighting their strengths and celebrating their uniqueness.
Exactly. You might say things like, you're such a good friend, or I love your creativity, or you have a really kind heart.
It's about helping them see themselves through a positive lens and to appreciate all the wonderful things that make them who they are.
And this can have a ripple effect on their self-esteem and their overall well-being.
I bet. So we've got these 7 types of phrases. Positive framing, asking for their opinions. Encouraging reflection, offering reassurance. Expressing gratitude, emphasizing effort, and focusing on their positive qualities. This is a great toolkit for parents.
It is. And the guide emphasizes that it's not just about the words you say.
Oh, what else is there?
Your tone of voice, your facial expressions, your physical touch, all of these nonverbal cues communicate volumes to a child.
Right. It's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly. And how you make the child feel in that moment.
You're talking about those plus strokes that the guide mentions?
Yes. Plus strokes are those positive nonverbal gestures that reinforce your words and create a warm and supportive atmosphere.
Okay, so like a smile, a hug, a pat on the back.
Exactly. Or even just maintaining eye contact and giving them your full attention.
It's like adding an extra layer of meaning to your words. You're not just saying, I'm proud of you. You're showing them with your body language, too.
Right. Think about it. Wouldn't you feel more encouraged and supported if someone offered you a kind word along with a warm smile and a pat on the shoulder?
Absolutely. It's those little gestures that make all the difference.
They make you feel seen, heard, and valued.
Now, we've been talking a lot about how parents can support their children's self-affirmation. But the guide also emphasizes that parents need to work on their own self-affirmation as well.
That's a crucial point.
Why is that so important?
Well, children are incredibly perceptive. They pick up on our attitudes and behaviors, even the subtle ones.
So if we're constantly criticizing ourselves or putting ourselves down, they're likely to internalize those messages and start doing the same.
Exactly. It's like they're learning how to treat themselves by watching how we treat ourselves.
It's setting an example right.
Precisely. So it's crucial for parents to model self-compassion and self-acceptance.
So if we can show our children that it's okay to make mistakes, to have flaws, to be kind to ourselves, they're more likely to develop a healthy and positive self-image.
Exactly. And it's not just about being a good role model.
It's also about taking care of our own emotional well-being.
Right. When we cultivate our own self-affirmation, we're better equipped to handle the challenges of parenting.
We're less likely to get triggered by our children's behavior.
And we're more likely to respond with patience and understanding.
So it's a win-win situation. By working on our own self-affirmation, we not only benefit ourselves, but we also create a more positive and nurturing environment for our children to thrive.
Absolutely. Now, the guide doesn't just stop at general advice. It also provides some specific strategies for dealing with common challenges like anger, fear of failure, and bullying.
Okay, let's dive into those strategies. What does the guide suggest for handling those tricky situations?
Well, when it comes to anger, they really stress staying calm yourself first.
Yeah.
It's tough, but it's like the best way to show your kid how to handle big feelings, then try to figure out what's making them so mad.
So instead of knock it off, it's more like, hey, what got you so worked up?
Right, help them put words to it. The guide even suggests teaching them ways to get that anger out, like breathing exercises or drawing how angry they feel.
I like that. Gives them tools instead of just making them feel bad for having those feelings.
Totally. What about fear of failure? That's got to be huge EE for kids these days.
That's a lot of pressure to succeed, yeah. What's the guide's take on that?
It's kind of surprising. They say instead of trying to protect kids from failing, we should teach them that it's normal. It's part of how you learn.
So less, don't worry, you'll win next time. More. Okay, so this one didn't go your way. What can we learn from it?
Yep. You're basically teaching them a growth mindset. Mistakes aren't the end, they're just part of the journey.
And you celebrate their effort no matter what. That's got to help their confidence.
Oh, for sure. Then there's bullying. That one's always tough.
How does the guide approach that?
Open communication is key. Let your kid know they can talk to you about anything and really listen when they do. No judging.
So it's not about just ignore them or telling them to fight back. It's more nuanced.
Yeah, you work on strategies together, maybe involving a teacher, practicing how to be assertive without being aggressive.
That's huge. And I bet having people they can count on makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Not just parents, teachers, friends, family, anyone who can support them.
So it takes a village, as they say.
Now, besides all the advice, the guide has some fun activities too.
Yeah.
There's this self-love jar.
Self-love jar, that's cute. What is that?
Basically, you get a jar, decorate it all nice, then have your kid write down good things about themselves, stuff they're proud of, things they're good at, what they're grateful for. All goes on slips of paper into the jar.
I love that. Like a little boost of positivity whenever they need it.
Right, and just the act of writing all that down can be helpful too.
Reminds you of what's awesome about yourself.
Oh,
What else is there?
there's the strength tree too.
Sounds interesting. How's that one work?
You draw a tree together, then on each branch, your kid writes one of their strengths. It can be anything. Good listener, creative, good at math, whatever.
Like their own little superpower list.
Kinda. And they can add to it as they grow, showing how they're developing.
This has been so insightful. It really makes you think about how different cultures approach this.
Yeah, but even with differences, the main goal's the same. Raising kids who feel good about themselves.
We've talked about so much. Personality types, positive language, handling those tough moments. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but even one small change can make a difference for a kid.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, what stood out to you today? What one thing can you try out, whether for yourself or the kids in your life?
It's all about those little steps, building self-affirmation bit by bit.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it useful and are feeling inspired to help the young people around you thrive.